Diddy is now officially on trial for crimes that could put him away for the rest of his life if he's convicted. And I got to say, before we get into the strategy of picking a jury, which is what they're going to be doing this week.
Day 2 of jury selection in one of the most high-profile trials in recent memory. Sean Diddy Combs is facing federal charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. And right now, his team and federal prosecutors are trying to figure out which New Yorkers will serve on a jury to determine his guilt or innocence. Who may be ultimately selected to decide one of the most impactful criminal trials in recent years? We're going to break down the big moments that happened today. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Combs due back in court for day 2 of jury selection in his sex trafficking and racketeering case. We're getting a look this morning at some of the questions jurors are being asked. Chief Investigative Correspondent.
Good morning, Whit. No juror has been seated here so far, and jury selection has made Sean Combs a little bit nervous.
Hollywood is no stranger to controversy, but the legal battle of Sean Diddy Combs has everyone on the edge of their seats. From sex trafficking allegations to a sex tape that's shaking the courtroom, this trial has revealed shocking secrets about the mogul. What's the truth behind the Diddy Trial sex tape twist? Stick around as we dive into this explosive case. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs has officially begun, and the stakes couldn't be higher. He's facing serious charges that could put him behind bars for life if convicted.
I mean, they're going to see that video.
They're going to see the video.
And we know that video will have an impact on that. Even though he is not being charged for this, it has nothing to do with any of the 4 counts he's facing.
Everybody concedes. The defense, we know the defense knows. I mean, our sources are pretty good on both sides here.
As jury selection begins, Diddy's appearance in court has raised some eyebrows. Dressed casually in a black sweater and his hair noticeably grayed, it seems like a calculated move. Diddy's defense team hopes his calm demeanor and downplayed appearance will sway the jury. But the big question is, will it work? And is this part of a larger strategy to deflect from the serious accusations? Now, let's get to the heart of the scandal, the sex tape. It's not directly related to the charges Diddy faces, but it's making waves. Rumors of a video involving Diddy have surfaced, and it's reportedly been handed over to the authorities. While the tape itself isn't being used in the trial, it's stirring up a storm in the court of public opinion.
On one of the most impactful, heavily covered criminal trials in years, currently scheduled for 8 weeks. So we're going to cover what has happened today in the process, who may be selected ultimately for this jury. And this comes as not only Combs has just added another lawyer to his team, while the prosecution objected to another one sitting with him. We're going to talk about that. But this also comes as Combs reportedly said yesterday, he's a little nervous. And that's understandable, because why? He's facing 5 federal charges.
While Diddy's defense tries to keep the focus on the charges, the tape's shadow looms large. Will it ruin his chances in court, even if it's not directly tied to the case? As this trial unfolds, public opinion is sharply divided. Some see Diddy as a victim of a flawed legal system, while others believe the evidence is clear and justice must be served. On social media, the debates are intense. Some fans are sticking by Diddy, while others are calling for him to face the consequences.
During day 1 of Sean Combs' criminal trial, we heard some celebrity names come up. They were listed on a people and places list that was given to prospective jurors as names that might come up during the trial when it kicks off next week. And among those names are actors Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, 2 members of the girl group Danity Kane, that's Aubrey O'Day and Dawn Richard. You also heard the name of musician Kanye West and one of Combs' sons, Christian Combs, as well as his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who filed that explosive civil suit against him in 2023, which really set off this entire chain of events in the federal investigation. Now, we don't know why these names have been mentioned. They haven't been accused of any wrongdoing, and I guess we're just going to have to see how it all plays out during the trial.
The reactions are mixed. Some believe he's being persecuted because of his status, while others argue that the case is about more than just one celebrity. It's about holding powerful figures accountable. Jury selection is a critical part of this trial, and it's been a tense process. With so much public interest in the case, it's hard to find jurors who haven't already heard about the scandalous details. The defense is looking for jurors who have preconceptions about the trial, hoping that confusion around the allegations might work in Diddy's favor. The defense hopes that by mixing up the narrative, they can get a jury that feels underwhelmed by the actual evidence. But how long can they play this game, especially with the public already so divided? Despite the dramatic nature of the allegations, the actual evidence against Diddy is still unclear. The prosecution's case seems to be built on circumstantial evidence, while the defense aims to tear it down by focusing on what's not in the case: the sex tapes, the minors, the rumors. Without hard evidence linking Diddy to the criminal activities he's accused of, this trial could go either way. Is there enough to convince a jury, or will Diddy's legal team manage to raise reasonable doubt? One of the most complicated aspects of this case is Diddy's past.
Combs due back in court for day 2 of jury selection in his sex trafficking and racketeering case. We're getting a look this morning at some of the questions jurors are being asked. Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky is right there at the courthouse for us. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. No juror has been seated here so far, and jury selection has made Sean Combs a little bit nervous. This morning, day 2 of jury selection in the racketeering and sex trafficking trial of Sean Combs, seen in court with graying hair. Federal prosecutors are trying to prove Combs used his power, wealth, and fame to force women into drug-fueled orgies he called freak-offs and then threaten them into silence.
The jury questionnaire warning potential jurors there may be evidence of sexually explicit videos, photographs, and language. Many prospective jurors said they had heard of the case and this potentially damning evidence. Video first obtained by CNN showing Combs knocking then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura to the floor of a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 and kicking and dragging her.
His swinger lifestyle is at the heart of many allegations. While it's not inherently illegal, it has caused concern. The defense will argue that what Diddy did was consensual and legal, but can they convince the jury of that? Diddy's past will certainly come into play, but will it be enough to protect him? The jury will have to decide if what Diddy did was consensual or criminal, and that could be a game changer in this case. As the trial continues, the world is watching. With every twist, every turn, and every new revelation, Diddy's fate hangs in the balance. Will the jury be swayed by the media frenzy? Or will they base their decision solely on the evidence presented in court? With the trial in its early stages, no one knows what will happen next. Will Diddy walk free, or will the evidence catch up to him? As the Diddy Trial sex tape twist continues to unfold, one thing is clear. This trial will leave a mark on Diddy's legacy regardless of the outcome. The court of public opinion is just as important as the courtroom itself, and we'll be here to bring you every twist and turn. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for updates. This story is far from over. As the trial unfolds, there is a growing sense of intrigue and uncertainty. Our strategy of playing on confusion and public perception continue to work, or will the prosecution's steady hand with circumstantial evidence prove stronger? It's the ultimate battle between fact and rumor, truth and scandal, and Diddy's reputation is hanging by a thread. The defense is betting on the idea that they can shift the narrative enough to leave the jury with lingering doubts about the allegations, hoping that the complexities and contradictions in the case will. The prosecution has pointed to the long list of allegations, and while they may not yet have direct, concrete evidence, the public has already passed its own verdict. The jury, however, will have to approach this trial with faith in court. Will they remain steadfast in their commitment to impartiality, or will the noise from the media bleed into their decision-making? This trial is about more than just the legal facts. It's about the public's perception of Diddy. With the media circus surrounding the case, it's difficult to separate the man from the controversy. But in the end, it's the evidence that will decide his fate. As the case continues, Diddy's past lifestyle becomes a focal point. It's no secret that the mogul has been linked to a swinger lifestyle, and some are using this against him.
For every second of this. Now, to talk about what happened today, day 2 of jury selection, to talk about today's proceedings, I want to bring in former federal prosecutor Nema Romani to talk more about this. Nema, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Love having you on to talk about the Sean Combs case. So first of all, the process has been running quite smoothly and efficiently. I mean, do you think they can select a jury this week with opening statements next week? When you told me this, when they told me that jury selection was only going to take a week, I said, no way, it's not going to be able to take a week. But You think it's possible, generally speaking? We'll get into more specifics about what happened today.
Jesse, first of all, love being on, and we're almost there. Next week, I do believe we are going to get a jury selected this week. And I think the reason we are, really there's two reasons. One, we're in federal court. And we know these federal judges like to move. They're really limited when it comes to what they perceive as for-cause challenges. If some of these potential jurors say, hey, I can be fair and impartial, that's good enough for most judges. And they'll say, you know what, counsel, you got to use your peremptory on them. The other reason I think we're moving quickly is because we're having...
The accusations of sexual misconduct and abuse are tied to his past relationships, and the defense has a tough job of separating his personal life from the charges at hand, while many view his lifestyle choices as consensual and part of his private life. In the courtroom, it takes on a whole new meaning. The defense has argued that what happened in Diddy's private life, while unconventional, was never illegal. The real challenge will come when the jury decides if those actions were consensual, and if they should affect
judge voir dire as opposed to attorney voir dire. Attorneys can ask all sorts of questions because, look, let's be honest, Jesse, there's only one person in that courtroom that wants a fair and impartial jury, and that's Judge Subramanian. The lawyers, they're going to want jurors who are favorable for their case. I mean, that they're advocates. That's just the reality of it. So
what?
Lawyers tend to be a little bit more
What did you say? What? They don't want fair and impartial. They want jurors on their side. Nema, what are you talking about?
Believe it or not, Jesse, advocates actually want to win. So,
yeah.
They'll ask questions, as trying to get into their political beliefs. And really, we want to know, if you're prosecuting or defending a sexual assault case, what are your views on sexual assault? Do you believe it can be underreported? Do you believe it can be falsely reported? Is this rape? Is this regret? I mean, we know what the lawyers are getting after. So the judge obviously isn't going to get into all that. It's going to kind of stay within the boundaries of really what should be a for-cause challenge. And that's why I think the process is moving a lot faster than it would otherwise go.
the overall case. Will they see his personal life as part of his freedom, or will it be seen as the underlying motive for his alleged crimes? Meanwhile, the public has been watching closely, and their reactions are more polarized than ever. On one side, there are those who believe Diddy is being unfairly targeted by the system, someone who has been a symbol of success, but now faces a media-driven downfall. On the other hand, there are those who argue that the evidence speaks for itself, that the allegations are not just rumors, and that Diddy must face the consequences of his actions. The debate continues to rage on social media, where opinions are divided and the stakes couldn't be higher. Supporters of Diddy are fighting back, calling the case a case of celebrity persecution, while others demand accountability. But the question remains, can public opinion really influence the jury? It's a question that's been asked before. The answer is often complicated. Jury selection is a crucial part of this process. As the court tries to find impartial jurors, the defense team is doing everything they can to ensure that their side gets a fair chance. One of the key strategies here is to bring in jurors who are already familiar with the case, but haven't formed a fixed opinion. This gives the defense a chance to create doubt by emphasizing the gaps in the prosecution's case. Ultimately, the strategy hinges on how well the defense can manipulate the jury's expectations.
So let's get into a little bit later on about preemptory challenges and how that's going to work. But right now, as these jurors were brought in for initial questionnaires last week where they filled out all the paperwork, answered questions, now there's individual questioning, and they can be stricken for cause. There's a legitimate reason they can't sit on the jury, whether it's a very unique particular hardship or they're showing some sort of bias. And I have to tell you, Nema, there was a little bit of trouble today, right? You had one prospective juror today who talked about hearing about the Combs case on CNN, admitted that they leaned in a negative light towards him having committed some crimes. That juror was excluded. You had another juror who admitted on the questionnaire, again, that all these prospective jurors had to fill out.
Prosecution has built its case around circumstantial evidence, but will that be enough to convince the jury of Diddy's guilt? As the trial plays out, it's clear that this could go either way. As the Diddy Trial sex tape twist continues to unfold, it's clear that this trial is more than just a legal battle. It's a cultural moment. No matter how it ends, Diddy's legacy has been permanently altered by these events. The public will continue to weigh in, but it's the jury who will ultimately decide his fate. Stay with us as we continue to bring you the latest updates and reactions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more insights into This unfolding drama. The story is far from over and will be here every step of the way to keep you informed. As the trial presses on, tensions rise, with both sides fiercely battling for dominance. The defense's job is to sow doubt, and they're doing it with precision, questioning every piece of evidence and challenging the credibility of witnesses. On the other hand, the prosecution is steadfast, convinced that they have the facts to seal Diddy's fate. The courtroom drama is playing out like a chess match, each move critical, each counter move even more so.
That she was a victim of an attempted rape. Reportedly said the cops could have done a lot more. But this juror wrote on the questionnaire that P. Diddy has money and he could buy his way out. And when asked by the court, well, what did you mean by that? She apparently doubled down and said, just what I wrote. She was excused for cause. Another juror, who has a son that works in the DA's office of Rockland County, New York, conceded.
Outside the courtroom, the debate rages on as social media users continue to dissect every new development. Has Diddy really been wronged, or is there more to this story than meets the eye? Memes and opinion pieces flood timelines, amplifying the already intense public scrutiny. It's clear that this trial is about more than just one person. It's a symbol of how celebrities navigate their personal lives under the unforgiving spotlight. Arguments draw nearer. Both sides know the stakes are higher than ever. The defense will give their final push to convince the jury that there's simply not enough evidence to convict, while the prosecution is preparing for the last chance to persuade them of Diddy's guilt. The eyes of the world are watching, and in this high-pressure environment, any misstep could prove disastrous. Will Diddy be able to escape the weight of these allegations, or will the legal system find a way to hold him accountable? It's a question we're all...
You need to notice onto the case. They don't have to be lawyers, but if you are doing legal work, you do have to be in the case. And we know the Southern District of New York has some pretty strict local rules when it comes to these out-of-court statements. We've talked about it in the Lively Baldoni case, for instance, came up in the Mayor Eric Adams case. You really got to be careful about what you say. Luigi Mangione in the federal case, you really got to be careful about what you say in the Southern District of New York, right? Because again, those local rules there really are limiting in what you can say out of court if it has the potential of tainting that jury pool.
Yeah. And by the way, one more point about lawyers. So Nema, also, as reported by Elizabeth previously, today we got official word that Nicole Westmoreland is now representing Combs at this trial too. So he already had several attorneys, Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos, Brian Steele, expanding the team. What do you make of this?
I think it's important, and we've talked about it time and time again.